LiberalViewer presents.
So, welcome to LiberalViewer CNN Republican Debate Live Clip Roundup. Thanks for joining me. This is one of my debate roundups where I do my media criticism and political commentary for the corporate media debates. This time from last night's CNN Republican debate from Houston, I picked out the top 12 clips I think that summarize what happened and helps with my media analysis and political commentary. This is the last debate before Super Tuesday, and it, as you'll see from the 12 clips I picked out, it seems to be the debate where especially Marco Rubio and also Ted Cruz recognize that it's their last chance to stop Donald Trump. And these debate clips come in chronological order. If you're watching this as a recorded show, I put time indexes down in the video description so you can skip to the next clip or to the clip on the topic that most interests you, because I put brief descriptions of what's happening in those clips. Even though this is in chronological order, and I usually say that means it's not like from best to worst or worst to best, by the end of these 12 clips, by that last 12th clip, you'll see this debate almost descend into chaos. And I think the 12th clip really is the best clip. So stay tuned for that if you're watching the live show. And I guess you can skip to it if you're watching the recorded show if you get bored with clips 1 through 11. And the first clip I want to show you is just sort of to whet your appetite. This is brief. I think it's under 20 seconds. A clip of Donald Trump explaining why he's glad that I think it was Ted Cruz mentioned Arizona in the immigration debate over here.
Mentioned Arizona because probably the toughest man on borders is Sheriff Joe Arapio, and 2 days ago he totally endorsed me. So thank you.
Senator Rubio. Senator Rubio.
So I like that clip, just the totally endorsed me. Totally endorsed me. That, I mean, Sheriff Joe Arapio is like the most radical, extremist, anti-immigrant person. You know, he's been sued by the ACLU in Arizona. I don't even want to go into all that, but I like that clip because of the totally endorsed me part of it. And so I wanted to show it to you, and you can let me know what you think about it down in the comment section. Now for a more serious clip. This is Marco Rubio's first big attack on Donald Trump. He was actually asked a question where I think I cut out the question because I'm trying to take the minimum amount of clip necessary for my commentary as fair use requires. But just for my commentary, I'll let you know that before this clip starts, I believe Marco Rubio's asked a question that is kind of asking him to attack Ted Cruz, and he doesn't really take the bait. Instead, he's all prepared to go after Donald Trump on immigration, and this is their back and forth for about 3.5 minutes in this clip.
He mentioned me in his answer that his position on immigration is what's driven this debate. Well, the truth is, though, that a lot of these positions that he's now taking are new to him. In 2011, he talked about the need for a pathway to citizenship. In 2012, Donald criticized Mitt Romney, saying that Mitt lost his election because of self-deportation. And so even today, we saw a report in one of the newspapers that, Donald, you've hired a significant number of people from other countries to take jobs that Americans could have filled. My mom was a maid at a hotel, and instead of hiring an American like her, you have brought in over 1,000 people from all over the world to fill those jobs instead. So I think this is an important issue. And I think we all realize increasingly that's an important issue for the country that's been debated for 30 years, but finally needs to be solved once and for all.
Mr. Trump?
Well, first of all, self-deportation is people are going to leave as soon as they see others going out. If you look at Dwight Eisenhower in the 1950s, they started moving people out and the rest of them left. Self-deportation, as I really define it, and that's the way I define it, is you're going to get some to go and the rest are going to go out. As far as the people that I've hired in various parts of Florida during the absolute prime season, like Palm Beach and other locations, you could not get help. It's the up season. People didn't want to have part-time jobs. They were part-time jobs, very seasonal, 90-day jobs, 120-day jobs, and you couldn't get. Everybody agrees with me on that. They were part-time jobs. You needed them, or we just might as well close the doors because you couldn't get help in those hot sections of Florida.
My point that I made was that you had criticized Mitt Romney for self-deportation. You said that his strategy of self-deportation is why he lost the election. And I think people in Florida would be surprised because, in fact, the article that was today, they interviewed a number of people that would have been willing to do those jobs if you had been willing to hire them to do it.
I criticize Mitt Romney for losing the election. He should have won that election. He had a failed president. He ran a terrible campaign. He was a terrible candidate. That's what I criticize Mitt Romney.
Well,
he ran one terrible campaign. That's an election that should have been won.
Well, in fact, I agree we should have won, and I wish we would have. But in fact, you did criticize him for using the term self-deportation. I mean, that's on the record, and people can look it up right now online. But again, I just want to reiterate, I think it's really important, this point. I think it's fine. It's an important point that you raise and we discuss on immigration. This is a big issue for Texas, a huge issue for the country. But I also think that if you're going to claim that you're the only one that lifted this into the campaign, that you acknowledge that, for example, you're the only person on the stage that's ever been fined for hiring people to work on your projects illegally. You hired some workers from Poland.
I'm the only one on the stage that's hired people. You haven't hired anybody.
Well, in fact, some of the people he hired.
I've hired tens of thousands of people over my job. You've hired
1,000 people from another company,
from another country. Credit cards, etc.
Let me say. Let me finish this statement. This is important.
You haven't hired one person
He hired workers from Poland, and he had to pay $1 million or so in a judgment.
That's wrong.
That's a fact.
Totally wrong.
Well, people can look it up. I'm sure people are Googling it right now. Look it up.
Cruz.
Trump Polish workers. You'll see $1 million for hiring illegal workers on one of his projects. Yeah, he did.
You know, it's interesting.
That happened.
I've hired tens of thousands of people over my lifetime.
Many from other countries instead of hiring Americans.
Be quiet. Let me talk. I've hired tens of thousands of people. He brings up something from 30 years ago. It worked out very well. Everybody was happy.
Paid $1 million.
And by the way, the laws were totally different. That was a whole different world.
Thank you.
But I've hired people. Nobody up here has hired
Senator Cruz.
So obviously, Senator Marco Rubio came prepared to attack Donald Trump, as you saw in that clip. And if you watch the back and forth, the entire clip in context, I think it turns out to be about a draw. I think they both gave as good as they got, but that's a big improvement for Marco Rubio. I don't think he's really taken on Donald Trump before this debate. And if you've been watching his rallies this morning after the debate and through the day, he really even stepped it up. And I'll talk about that more after I show some of the even harder attacks that Senator Marco Rubio took on Donald Trump. But the next clip I want to show is the guy on the other side of Trump, Senator Ted Cruz, also took this debate as an opportunity to really go hard against Donald Trump. And I think similar to that last clip, it's kind of ends up being a draw if you watch the entire clip in context, as I'm about to show it to you. And what I find especially amusing about this is there's more interludes there where Donald Trump actually not only attacks Ted Cruz, but attacks the audience because, you know, they're all big donors and they're all against him for cheering Ted Cruz and booing Donald Trump over in this clip.
It's amazing that Donald believes that he is the one who discovered the issue of illegal immigration. I can tell you when I ran for Senate here in the state of Texas, I ran promising to lead the fight against amnesty, promising to fight to build a wall. And in 2013, when I was leading the fight against the Gang of Eight amnesty bill, where was Donald? He was firing Dennis Rodman on Celebrity Apprentice. And indeed, if you look at the Gang of Eight, one individual on this stage broke his promise to the men and women who elected him and wrote the amnesty bill. But Donald funded the Gang of Eight. If you look at the 8 members of the Gang of Eight, Donald gave over $50,000 to 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And when you're funding open border politicians, you shouldn't be surprised when they fight for open borders. And I think if you want to know who actually will secure the borders and follow through, you ought to ask who has a record before they were a candidate for president of fighting to secure the borders and stop amnesty. And I'm the only one on this stage that has that record. And by the way, Marco is exactly right that a federal court found Donald guilty of being part of a conspiracy to hire people illegally and entered a $1 million judgment against them.
Mr. Trump.
I can only say this, and I've said it loud and clear, and I've said it for years. And many of these people are sitting right in the audience right now, your lobbyists and your special interests and your donors, because the audience is packed with them, and they're packed with you. I've had an amazing relationship with politicians, both Democrat, Republican, because I was a businessman. As one magazine said, he's a world-class businessman. He was friendly with everybody. I got along with everybody. You get along with nobody. You don't have one Republican. You don't have one Republican senator, and you work with them every day of your life, although you skipped a lot of time. These are minor details. But you don't have one Republican senator backing you, not one. You don't have the endorsement of one Republican senator, and you work with these people.
Senator Cruz.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
You know, I actually think Donald is right. He is promising if he's elected, he will go and cut deals in Washington. And he's right. He has supported, he has given hundreds of thousands of dollars to Democrats. Anyone who really cared about illegal immigration wouldn't be hiring illegal immigrants. Anyone who really cared about illegal immigration wouldn't be funding Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, wouldn't be funding the Gang of Eight. And, you know, he is right. When you stand up to Washington, when you honor the promise you made to the men and women who elected you and say enough with the corruption, enough with the cronyism, let's actually stand for the working men and women of this country, Washington doesn't like it. And, Donald, if you want to be liked in Washington, that's not a good attribute for a president.
Hey, here's a man, Robin Hood. This is Robin Hood over here. He talks about corruption on his financial disclosure form. He didn't even put that he's borrowed money from Citibank and from Goldman Sachs, which is a total violation. He didn't talk about the fact that he pays almost no interest. He just left it off, and now he's going to protect the people from the big bad banks.
We're going to move on to Governor Kasich. Governor Kasich,
can I respond to that attack?
You can respond, but let me get Governor Kasich in. He's been waiting patiently.
Well,
Governor Kasich, the idea you've said.
So I think I got some kind of copyright claim. I don't know if you saw the whole clip. I may have to upload the whole thing later, and it may bring my whole channel down. I don't know. I sent an email to CBS back on Monday that they had sent me an email giving me till Monday to take down my my February 14th Sunday clip roundup that included CBS debate clips. And I sent them back an email explaining why it was fair use, and they haven't taken any further action. They haven't taken away the claims they have on the videos, and I don't know how this latest copyright claim is affecting my stream or is affecting the live viewers. I have a recorded version on my hard drive of the show that I can upload later, but I want to get on to the next clip. I'm spent several hours preparing this show, and I'm giving my commentary and asking for your commentary to let me know what you think about these exchanges between the Republican presidential candidates, which I think is a newsworthy topic of public importance. I think I'm giving my fair use commentary, my media criticism, and political analysis along the way, and I wanted to show a couple of the back and forths that Donald Trump had to deal with, like I showed Rubio, and then Cruz, and now I'm going back to the Rubio attack, and this is actually a much stronger attack by Marco Rubio on Donald Trump, and I will discuss that a little more after you watch that clip over here.
If he builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it. The second...
So cute. Such a cute soundbite.
But no, it's not a soundbite. It's a fact.
Yeah,
Again, go online and Google it. Donald Trump, Polish workers. You'll see it. The second thing about the trade war, I don't understand, because your ties and the clothes you make is made in Mexico and in China. So you're going to be starting a trade war against your own ties and your own suits. That's right. All right.
You know why? Because
why don't you
they
make them in
devalue
America?
their currencies.
No.
They devalue their currencies.
Well, then make them in America.
That makes it impossible. Well, you don't know anything about business. You lose on
make
everything
them in
you
America.
Do. Let me just tell you. They devalue their currencies. China, Mexico, everybody, Japan, with the cars. They devalue their currencies to such an extent that our businesses cannot compete with them. Our workers lose their jobs.
So you make them in China and in Russia.
But you wouldn't know anything about it because you're a lousy
Well, I don't know
businessman.
anything about bankrupting four companies.
No,
You bankrupted
I know,
four
you know what?
companies.
You know what?
I don't know anything about
You know what?
starting a
That's
university.
called-
That was a fake university.
First of all,
a fake university.
That's called.
There are people that borrow $36,000 to go to
Mr.
Trump University, and they're suing him now. $36,000 to go to a university.
And by the way,
that's a fake school.
And by the way,
and you know what they got? They got to take a picture with a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump.
And by the way,
that's what they got for the $36,000.
I want to move
and
on.
they actually did a very good job. But
Mr.
I've
Trump.
won most of the lawsuit.
Senator, I want to
most
bring in
of the lawsuit.
I want to bring in my colleague Maria Celeste.
Excuse me, hey, Wolf, let me ask you, am I allowed to respond to this
You're
guy?
allowed. You've been responding.
Okay, well, no, I haven't. I really haven't.
He's talked through the whole thing.
Here's the guy that buys a house for $179,000. He sells it to a lobbyist who's probably here for $380,000, and then legislation is passed. You tell me about this guy. This is what we're going to have
Here's
as
the guy
president?
that inherited $200 million. If he hadn't inherited $200 million, you know where Donald Trump would be right now? Selling watches in Manhattan. That's where
That
he would
is
be.
so wrong. We'll work on that. I took $1 million and I turned it into $10 billion. I borrowed $1
Then
million.
release your tax return so we can see how much money he makes.
I borrowed $1 million. I turned it into $10 billion, more than $10 billion.
Thank you. I want to bring in Maria Celeste of Telemundo. Maria.
So I think in that back and forth between Marco Rubio and Donald Trump, you can see that Marco Rubio is really starting to get to Donald Trump there. When you see the whole clip in context like that, it could possibly be the beginning of the Marco Rubio surge and the end of Donald Trump. It's actually, I think it's probably too late to stop Donald Trump at this point. If Marco Rubio had done what you just saw there a couple weeks earlier, you heard him say, if he hadn't inherited that money, where would he be selling watches on the street in New York? And he's really pumped up that commentary in his speeches today after the debate, explicitly calling Donald Trump a charlatan and a huckster, and that he's tricking these people who are angry and disaffected into voting for him when he never really looked out for the little guy. And you'll see more of that in a later clip. But I want to show how Donald Trump also had to take it from both sides there. And so here's Ted Cruz saying that he's also too liberal to be trustworthy to appoint judges, which I will discuss a little more after you watch that clip. Let me make sure I have the correct clip here. Yeah.
Interesting now that Donald promises that he will appoint justices who will defend religious liberty. But this is a man who for 40 years has given money to Jimmy Carter, to Joe Biden, to Hillary Clinton, to Chuck Schumer, to Harry Reid. Nobody who supports far-left liberal Democrats who are fighting for judicial activists can possibly care about having principled constitutionalists on the court. And what Donald has told us is he will go to Washington and cut a deal. So that means on Supreme Court, he's going to look to cut a deal rather than fight for someone who won't cut a deal on the Constitution but will defend it faithfully.
Can I trust you on religious liberty?
Let me just say this. Look, I watched Ted, and I respected it, but it gets nowhere, stand on the Senate floor for a day or 2 days and talk and talk and talk. I watched the other senators laughing and smiling, and when Ted was totally exhausted, he left the Senate floor and they went back to work, okay? We have to have somebody that's going to make deals. It's wonderful to stand up for 2 days and do that. Now, Ted's been very critical. I have a sister who's a brilliant, she's a brilliant judge. He's been criticizing my sister for signing a certain bill. You know who else signed that bill? Justice Samuel Alito, a very conservative member of the Supreme Court, with my sister, signed that bill. So I think that maybe we should get a little bit of an apology from Ted. What do you think?
Senator.
Let me tell you right now, Donald, I will not apologize for a minute for defending the Constitution. I will not apologize for defending the Bill of Rights. And I find it amazing that your answer to Hugh and to the American people is on religious liberty. You can't have one of these crazy zealots that actually believes in it. You got to be willing to cut a deal. And, you know, there is a reason why when Harry Reid was asked of all the people on this stage, who does he want the most? Who does he like the most? Harry Reid said Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald has supported him in the past, and he knows he can cut a deal with him. You know what, Donald? I don't want a Supreme Court justice that you cut a deal with Harry Reid to undermine religious liberty, because that same justice will also erase the Second Amendment from the Bill of Rights.
When you say crazy zealot, are you talking about you, crazy zealot? Give me a break.
Senator Rubio, you've heard this exchange.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I dislike Senator Ted Cruz so much, though apparently everybody dislikes Senator Ted Cruz. But I didn't think his attacks there were as effective as Senator Marco Rubio's attacks. I thought that he put a little bit of a mark on Donald Trump when you watch the whole clip in context, which is why I show the entire back and forth between the candidates so that we can discuss it in the live stream, and then with the recorded viewers, that's part of why this whole exercise is fair use, media criticism, and political commentary. And I want to show one more clip from the back and forth where Donald Trump had to take it from both sides, basically. Like I said, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and then I'll go to like a little Dr. Ben Carson comic relief clip. But first, here's Marco Rubio basically making that same argument on being that Donald Trump is untrustworthy to appoint conservative judges. He starts off praising Justice Scalia, and you'll see here Donald Trump falls back on where Republicans always go to when they don't know what to say, I guess, Ronald Reagan, which I will discuss a little more after you watch that clip over here.
The President of the United States has to fill this vacancy. Justice Scalia, in the history of the Republic, there has never been anyone better than him at standing for the principle that the Constitution is not a living and breathing document. It is supposed to be applied as originally meant. And the next President of the United States has to be someone that you can trust and believe in to appoint someone just as good as Scalia, plus there may be at least 2 other vacancies. So you ask Mr. Trump to respond and say that he would, and he says that he would, but the bottom line is if you look at his record over the last 25 or 30 years, on issue after issue, he has not been on our side. Now, if he's changed, we're always looking for converts into the conservative movement. But the bottom line is that you don't have a record there to look at and say, I feel at peace that when Donald Trump is President of the United States, he's going to be firmly on our side on these issues. In fact, very recently, he was still defending Planned Parenthood. He says he's not going to take sides in the Palestinians versus Israel. These are concerning things. And so, yes, I have a doubt about whether Donald Trump, if he becomes president, will replace Justice Scalia with someone just like Justice Scalia.
Mr. Trump.
Well, let me just say, first of all, I had great respect for Justice Scalia. I thought he was terrific. And if you talk about evolving, Ronald Reagan was a somewhat liberal Democrat. Ronald Reagan evolved into a somewhat strong conservative. More importantly, he was a great president, As far as Planned Parenthood is concerned, I'm pro-life. I'm totally against abortion having to do with Planned Parenthood. But millions and millions of women, cervical cancer, breast cancer, are helped by Planned Parenthood. So you can say whatever you want, but they have millions of women going through Planned Parenthood that are helped greatly. And I wouldn't fund it. I would defund it because of the abortion factor, which they say is 3%. I don't know what percentage it is. They say it's 3%, but I would defund it because I'm pro-life. But millions of women are helped by Planned Parenthood.
Governor Kasich.
So you don't often see Republicans say nice things about Planned Parenthood, and that's one of the weird things about Donald Trump. Some people say he does that because he's playing towards the general election. And, if you're watching the live stream and the stream just came back on, I don't know if it did or not. I turned it off because I was getting all these copyright messages, and I didn't want them to terminate the stream, which is like worse than getting a warning when they terminate the stream. So I just want to let you know that I'm still doing the show, and I will upload it later. It may also bring my channel down. I'm waiting, as I said earlier in the show, but maybe while the stream wasn't going, I got a claim from CBS on my February 14th Sunday clip Roundup, and that's because I used CBS debate clips at the beginning of that one, and I disputed it. They said they denied the dispute. I appealed it, and then I got this email from CBS on Monday, or on last Thursday, saying I needed to take my video down by Monday or face the consequences. And instead, I sent them an email back on Monday explaining why the video was fair use, and they haven't taken any further action. They haven't withdrawn their claims, and they haven't sent me any reply back. So I don't know what's going on with that. I just wanted to repeat that one more time. I'm sorry for the people who may have just seen me pop back up on the live stream. I think I'm actually going to turn the live stream off when I start playing the next clip and just upload this whole thing that I'm doing as a recorded show later and deal with the consequences of the copyright claims that will come on that. But I don't want to get both a stream termination and claims on a video, but even the claims on the video may take my channel down or may make me lose the ability to live stream or the ability to upload videos more than 15 minutes. I guess we'll have to see how that turns out. But I want to move on to that comic relief clip now I was promising before. This is Dr. Ben Carson. I wanted to take one clip from Ben Carson at least, and one clip from Governor John Kasich, which will come later in an interchange with Donald Trump. But this is also about Supreme Court justices, and he talks about what he'll look for, and it's their entire record, their entire life, everything they've done, and then he uses a very strange phrase at the end that I will talk about after you see that clip right over here.
Clear. Are the positions you've heard clear about the First Amendment and the First Freedom?
Well, first of all, let me just add my praise to Justice Scalia. I first met him when we got an honorary degree together a long time ago. Tremendous wit and intellect. As far as religious freedom is concerned, one of the basic tenets of this nation. And I believe that the Constitution protects all of our rights, and it gives people who believe in same-sex marriage the same rights as everybody else. But what we have to remember is, even though everybody has the same rights, nobody gets extra rights. So nobody gets to redefine things for everybody else and then have them have to conform to it. That's unfair. And this is the responsibility of Congress to come back and correct what the Supreme Court has done. That's why we have divided government. And we're going to have to encourage them to act in an appropriate way, or we will lose our religious freedom. And as president, I would go through and I would look at what a person's life has been. What have they done in the past? What kind of judgments have they made? What kind of associations do they have? That will tell you a lot more than an interview will tell you. The fruit salad of their life is what I will look at.
Thank you, Dr. Carson.
The fruit salad of their life. That's right. That's Dr. Ben Carson's phrase that may be his bow-out phrase for the 2016 Republican primaries, because I don't think he had much of an impact on the debate at all, and that's why that's the only clip I'm showing. That was the most memorable thing he said. You can let me know what you think, especially if you are one of my many viewers who actually already saw the debate or other clips from the debate and wanted to come here and just see my fair use political commentary and media analysis on what I thought of the debate. And now I want to move on to the clip where I think Marco Rubio actually scored his biggest hit on Donald Trump. This isn't the clip where the entire debate descends into chaos, clip number 12, but this is the one where I think he kind of befuddles Donald Trump and gets him to repeat himself and really gets him riled up. And, well, I will discuss it a little more after you watch that entire clip in context so that you can understand exactly what happened. Over.
Rubio, you said yesterday right here in Houston that Mr. Trump thinks part of Obamacare is pretty good. So he says he is going to repeal Obamacare. Are you saying that you're worried he won't?
He said he likes the individual mandate portion of it, which I don't believe him, that should be part of it. That should not remain there. I think here's what we need to replace it with. We need to repeal Obamacare completely and replace it with a system that puts Americans in charge of their health care money again. If your employer wants to buy health insurance for you, they can continue to do so from any company in America they want to buy it from. Otherwise, your employers can provide you health care money, tax-free, not treated as income, and you can use that money only for health care, but you can use it to fund health care any way you want. Fully fund a health savings account, the combination of a health savings account or a private plan from any company in any state in the country. And if you don't have that, then you will have a refundable tax credit that provides you health care money to buy your own health care coverage. And that, I think, is a much better approach than Obamacare, which, by the way, isn't just bad for health care, it's bad for our economy. It is a health care law that is basically forcing companies to lay people off, cut people's hours, move people to part-time. It is not just a bad health care law, it is a job-killing law, and I will repeal it as president, and we will replace it with something substantially better for all Americans.
Mr. Trump, Senator Rubio just said that you support the individual mandate. Could you respond?
I just want to say I agree with that 100%, except pre-existing condition. I would absolutely get rid of Obamacare. We're going to have something much better. But pre-existing conditions, when I'm referring to that, and I was referring to that very strongly on the show with Anderson Cooper, I want to keep pre-existing condition. I think we need it. I think it's a modern age, and I think we have to have it.
Okay, so let's talk about pre-existing conditions. What the insurance companies say is that the only way that they can cover people is to have a mandate requiring everybody purchase health insurance. Are they wrong?
I think they're wrong 100%. What we need, look, the insurance companies take care of the politicians. The insurance companies get what they want. We should have gotten rid of the lines around each state so we can have real competition. We thought that was gone. We thought those lines were going to be gone, and something happened at the last moment where Obamacare got approved, and all of that was thrown out the window. The reason is some of the people in the audience are insurance people and insurance lobbyists and special interests. I'm not going to point to these gentlemen. Of course, they're part of the problem, other than Ben, in all fairness. And actually the governor, too. Let's just talk about these two, okay? Because I don't think the governor had too much to do with this. But we should have gotten rid of the borders. We should have gotten rid of the lines around the state so there's great competition. The insurance companies are making a fortune on every single thing they do. I'm self-funding my campaign. I'm the only one in either party self-funding my campaign. I'm going to do what's right. We have to get rid of the lines around the states so that there's serious competition.
But Mr.
And you're going to see, excuse me, then you're going to see pre-existing conditions and everything else be part of it, but the price will be down, and the insurance companies can pay. Right now, they're making a fortune.
But just to be specific here, what you're saying is getting rid of the barriers between states, that is going to solve the problem?
That's going to solve a lot of the problem. And the insurance companies are going to say that. They want to keep it. They say whatever they have to say to keep it the way it is. I know the insurance companies. They're friends of mine. The top guys, they're friends of mine. I shouldn't tell you guys. You'll say it's terrible. I have a conflict of interest. They're friends of mine. There's some right in the audience. One of them was just waving to me. He was laughing and smiling. He's not laughing so much anymore. Hi. But you know what? The insurance companies are making an absolute fortune. Yes, they will keep pre-existing conditions, and that would be a great thing. Get rid of Obamacare. We'll come up with new plans, but we should keep pre-existing conditions.
And I was mentioned in his response, so if I may, about the insurance companies. You may not be aware of this, Donald, because you don't follow this stuff very closely, but here's what happened. When they passed Obamacare, they put a bailout fund in Obamacare. All these lobbyists you keep talking about, they put a bailout fund in the law that would allow public money to be used, taxpayer money, to bail out companies when they lost money. And we led the effort and wiped out that bailout fund. The insurance companies are not in favor of me. They hate that. They're suing now to get that bailout money put back in. Here's what you didn't hear in that answer, and this is important, guys. This is an important thing. What is your plan? I understand the lines around the state, whatever that means. This is not a game where you draw maps around.
And you don't know what it means.
What is your plan?
That's the problem.
What is your plan on health care? You don't have a plan.
The biggest problem he
I'll
doesn't
give
know.
him 1 minute.
The biggest problem he's got is he doesn't know. You know, I watched him melt down 2 weeks ago with Chris Christie. I got to tell you, the biggest problem he's got is he really doesn't know about the lines. The biggest thing we've got, and the reason we have no competition, is because we have lines around the state, and you have essentially
we already mentioned that as part of my plan. I know what that is. But what else is part of your plan? So your only thing is to get rid of the lines around the states. What else is part of your health care plan?
What the lines around the states mean.
That's your only
plan. And it was almost done. No. You know what that does?
I'll
that
give him
brings
time
in,
of mind. He can tell us his plan.
Excuse me. That brings in competition. When you get rid of the lines, it brings in competition. So instead of having one insurance company taking care of New York or Texas, you'll have many. They'll compete, and it'll be a beautiful thing.
Right. And so that's the only part of the plan? Just the lines, the interstate competition?
No, the nice part about the plan, you'll have many different plans. You'll have competition. You'll have so many different plans.
But now he's repeating himself.
No, I'm not repeating. No.
You don't repeat yourself.
Here's the guy who repeats himself.
You repeat yourself every day.
I watched him, talking about repeating, I watched him repeat himself 5 times 4 weeks ago. And
I saw you repeat yourself 5 times 5 seconds ago.
I watched him melt down on the stage like I've never seen anybody. I thought he came out of the swimming pool.
I said, well,
let's talk about your plan.
I see him repeat himself every night. It says 5 things. Everyone's dumb. He's going to make America great again. We're going to win, win, win. He's winning in the polls. And the lines around the state. Every night. Same thing.
Senator Rubio.
I tell the truth.
Senator Rubio, you will have time to respond. If you would just let Mr. Trump respond to what you
he's
just
gonna give us
posed
his
to
plan
him.
now, right?
If you could talk a little bit more about your plan. I know you talked about
No,
the
we're going to
interstate.
have many different plans
Can you
because there's
give us
going to be
specific?
competition.
Said it again.
There's going to be competition. There is going to be competition among all of the states and the insurance companies. They're going to have many, many different plans.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that? as part of
No,
your
there's
plan?
nothing to add. What's to add? What is to add?
Thank you both.
All right.
Governor Kasich.
So I show that entire 7-minute clip in context because I think that clip is really the moment. If Senator Marco Rubio overtakes Donald Trump and wins the nomination, starts doing better in the Super Tuesday states, wins his home state of Florida, he's got to do all those things if he even wants to like win at a brokered convention and stop Donald Trump from getting enough delegates to win on the first ballot at the convention. And that, like I said, the chances of that are getting slimmer and slimmer, but I think that was his best hit on Donald Trump in the whole night. And that back and forth, if you watch the whole thing in context, you saw Donald Trump got a few hits in there. One of the weird things about Donald Trump, if you watch that, is it's kind of like a combination of genius and stupidity. That whole thing where he's like talking about the donor who is like in the audience and like waved to me and now he's not so happy anymore. That whole riff was kind of brilliant, really. But then there's like some kind of stupid stuff in there where he has nothing in his healthcare plan, but we're going to get rid of Obamacare and replace it with something great. And we're going to get rid of the lines around the states, which is what Marco Rubio so effectively made fun of there. And Donald Trump, also the stupidity of like going from like what's your plan to you're going to have a lot of different plans, where he's talking about the different healthcare plans that'll be available because of the interstate competition. But yeah, he doesn't really. And also it's kind of stupid, I think, when he says we're going to keep pre-existing conditions. I know everyone knows what he means when he says that, but that's kind of jarring in my ears. I don't know about you. You can let me know what you think down in the comments section. I apologize for the people who hung around on the live stream that you're only seeing me and not the clips, and I'm actually most of the way done with the program. I have one more clip that shows Ted Cruz's, I think, his best attack on Donald Trump. It starts with the tax return issue, and one of the kind of surprises of the debate is that both Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Ted Cruz promised to release their tax returns in the next few days, putting more pressure on Donald Trump, who said he can't do it because he's under audit. And I've seen some pundits on TV say, oh, that makes sense, but I don't understand. Maybe there's some reason. You can explain it to me down in the comment section, but I don't understand why the fact that the IRS is looking at your returns really carefully means you can't make them public. It doesn't seem like, the IRS already has your returns, right? So how does making it public make your audit any worse? I don't understand that, but apparently that's Donald Trump's excuse, and here's Ted Cruz attacking him on that and then turning it into a more general attack as to who is going to be better at beating Hillary Clinton in November, assuming Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee. And I will talk about how I think they fare in this back and forth after you watch that clip over here.
5 years of tax returns already. We will have 2 more years available tomorrow. And I would note that this question really goes, Donald says he's being audited. Well, I would think that would underscore the need to release those returns. If he has said something that was false and that an audit is going to find was fraudulent, the voters need to know. And listen, people across this country, we recognize our country's in crisis. The most important question is, how do we win the general election in November 2016? And roughly 65% of Republicans think Donald is not the right candidate to go against Hillary Clinton. Now, part of the reason is in the last 10 polls on Real Clear Politics, he's lost to Hillary on 8 of them. In the last 10 polls on Real Clear Politics, I either tie or beat Hillary. And this is an example. You know, the mainstream media is laying off Donald now. They're going to pick apart his taxes. They're going to pick apart his business deals. And let's take, for example, one of Hillary's great vulnerabilities, the corruption at the Clinton Foundation. The fact that she had CEOs and foreign companies giving her money while she was Secretary of State. The next Republican nominee needs to be able to make that case against Hillary. And if Donald tried to do it, Hillary would turn to Donald and say, but gosh, Donald, you gave $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. I even went to your wedding. He can't prosecute the case against Hillary, and we can't risk another 4 years of these failed Obama policies by nominating someone who loses to Hillary Clinton in November.
Go ahead. At the beginning, I said openly to everybody that I contribute to many, many politicians, both Republican and Democrat. And I have over the years. I'm a businessman. I have over the years. And I sort of have to laugh when Ted makes a big deal out of the fact that he's doing well in the polls. Well, I'm beating him in virtually every poll. I'm tied in Texas, by the way, which I shouldn't be, but I think I'll do very well. But a poll just came out, a Bloomberg poll, where I am beating him so badly that it's like embarrassing even for me to say I'm beating him that badly. And here's the thing. It was sort of funny. 65% of the people don't like you. I just got 36% of the vote, right? I just got 46% on another one. I got 38% on another one. That means, and he got 20 and 22, and he lost in South Carolina so badly. That was going to be his stronghold. He said a year ago, oh, I can't lose South Carolina. I beat him in a landslide. Last week in Nevada, I beat him in a landslide. And he's saying about the polls. What other thing? Hillary Clinton, take a look at USA Today, take a look at the Q poll. I beat her, and I beat her badly, and I haven't even started on her. I only had one little interchange. And that was 4 weeks ago when she said I was sexist. And believe me, they had a rough weekend that weekend between Bill and Hillary. They had a rough weekend.
Gentlemen.
Oh, hold on. He attacked me, Wolf. I get a response.
I was about to say, Senator Cruz, respond.
Thank you very much. You know, it's interesting. Donald went on an extended tirade about the polls, but he didn't respond to any of the substance. He has yet to say he can release past year's tax returns. He can do it tomorrow. He doesn't want to do it because presumably there's something in there that is bad. If there's nothing, release them tomorrow. They're already prepared. The only reason he's not releasing them is because he's afraid that he will get hit. You know, Marco made reference earlier to the litigation against Trump University. It's a fraud case. His lawyers have scheduled the trial for July. I want you to think about if this man is the nominee, having the Republican nominee on the stand in court being cross-examined about whether he committed fraud. You don't think the mainstream media will go crazy on that? And on substance, how do we nominate a candidate who has said Hillary Clinton was the best Secretary of State of modern times, who agreed with her on foreign policy, who agrees with Bernie Sanders on health care, who agreed with Barack Obama on the Wall Street bailout?
Right.
If we've got to win this election and we can't do it with a candidate who agrees with Hillary Clinton and can't take it to her and beat her on the debate stage and at the polls.
Mr. Trump, hold on. Mr. Trump,
First of all, he's talking about the polls. I'm beating him awfully badly in the polls.
But you're not beating Hillary.
So you're not beating Hillary. Well, then if I can't beat her, you're really going to get killed, aren't you? So let me ask you this, because you're really getting beaten badly. I know you're embarrassed. I know you're embarrassed. But keep fighting. Keep swinging, man. Swing for the fences. Let me just tell you. The Trump University case is a civil case, it's a civil case. It's a case where people want to try and it's a case that is nonsense. It's something I could have settled many times. I could settle it right now for very little money, but I don't want to do it out of principle. The people that took the course all signed, many, signed report cards saying it was fantastic, it was wonderful, it was beautiful. And believe me, I'll win that case. That's an easy case, a civil case. Number two, as far as the taxes are concerned, I'm being audited. No, it's a very routine audit, and it's very unfair because I've been audited for, I think, over 12 years. Every year, because of the size of my company, which is very, very large, I'm being audited, which is a very large company.
Thank you.
I'm being audited 12 years in a row at least. Now, until that audit's done, and I don't think anybody would blame me, I'm not giving it.
Thank you.
But as soon as it's done,
what about the years you're not being audited? Will you release those
I'm being
years?
audited for those years.
Which years? Which years will you be audited
4 or 5
for?
years.
Gentlemen,
you don't know which years you're being audited for?
We're trying to obey these rules that all of you agreed. We're going to take a quick break. We have a lot more, many more critically important.
So they actually took a break at that point. And Marco Rubio, I saw in one of his speeches, was saying, I don't know if it was during that break, but during some break, that Donald Trump was really flustered. He was powdering makeup on his sweat mustache and yelling and gesticulating to someone in the break room. And I don't know if it was that break, but I actually thought Donald Trump did a lot better and was a lot stronger in that answer talking to Ted Cruz in that interchange where you saw the full clip in context, the full 5-minute, 44-second clip, so you could compare it to the full 7-minute interchange between Donald Trump and Marco Rubio, where I thought Marco Rubio did a lot better, even though Ted Cruz's arguments are better articulated, there's more information there, but I think for some reason, like I said earlier, I think Senator Ted Cruz comes across just as more of a weasel. He just can't land the punches because he's so unlikable when he's making the points. And I think Donald Trump is less afraid of him or just responds better to him because his responses and his rebuttal points seemed a lot stronger. And I think he took Senator Ted Cruz more to a draw, and that Senator Marco Rubio did a better job of getting to Donald Trump, even though his attacks weren't really as polished and but they seem more practiced and less in the moment than Ted Cruz is. But I wanted to show both those clips in context, the full clip, so that I could give that political commentary and media analysis and how I think they came across to the voters. You can let me know what you think down in the comment section. And I have 3 clips left. There's one of Senator Marco Rubio doing one more attack, and I don't know, maybe it's my partisan bias, but I think a lot of what Marco Rubio said in this next clip was kind of stupid, and I don't think he did as well as that previous 7-minute interchange where I think he really flustered Donald Trump and befuddled him and got him to show the superficiality of some of his talking points, for example, on healthcare. In this just over 2-minute clip, Senator Marco Rubio talks about Donald Trump said that he wanted to be neutral on the Arab-Israeli conflict. I think they ask, why is it bad to be an honest broker between the Palestinians and the Israelis? And I talked about this on my Sunday clip roundup last Sunday, that there's this big bias in the corporate media where if you're not pro-Israel, you're anti-Israel, and that's basically the premise of Marco Rubio's question. And I think Donald Trump has a pretty good answer, and then Marco Rubio says something at the end that I think actually isn't true. His big attack on Donald Trump, I think, actually is not true, as I will discuss after you watch that clip. Over here.
The U.S. being an honest broker in a negotiation, as Mr. Trump is proposing.
And I don't know if Donald realizes this, I'm sure it's not his intent perhaps, but the position you've taken is an anti-Israel position, and here's why. Because you cannot be an honest broker in a dispute between two sides in which one of the sides is constantly acting in bad faith. The Palestinian Authority has walked away from multiple efforts to make peace. Very generous offers from the Israelis. Instead, here's what the Palestinians do. They teach their 4-year-old children that killing Jews is a glorious thing. Here's what Hamas does. They launch rockets and terrorist attacks against Israel on an ongoing basis. The bottom line is a deal between Israel and the Palestinians, given the current makeup of the Palestinians, is not possible. And so the next president of the United States needs to be someone like me who will stand firmly on the side of Israel. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm not either side. I will be on his side. I will be on Israel's side every single day, because they are the only pro-American, free enterprise democracy in the entire Middle East.
Mr. Trump.
I'm a negotiator. I've done very well over the years through negotiation. It's very important that we do that. In all fairness, Marco is not a negotiator. I watched him melt down, and I'll tell you, it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen. He's not going down.
He thinks the Palestinian is a real estate deal.
And these people may even be tougher than Chris Christie, okay?
The Palestinians are not a real estate deal, Donald.
Okay, no. A deal,
they're not a real estate deal.
A deal is a deal. Let me tell you,
a deal is not a deal when you're dealing with terrorists. Have you ever negotiated with terrorists?
You are not a negotiator. And with your thinking, you will never bring peace. You will never bring peace.
Donald might be able to build condos in the Palestinian areas, but he's not going to. This is not a real estate deal.
Senator, he will never be able to do it. I think I may be able to do it, although I will say this, probably the toughest deal of any kind is that particular deal.
Let's move on and talk about North Korea.
So the thing that I thought that Senator Marco Rubio said there that really isn't true if you think about it is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict kind of is a real estate deal. I mean, that is the main topic of contention in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is real estate. So I don't know why that point really didn't land for me. And I thought in that interchange that Donald Trump gave as good as he got, kind of like at the beginning. And I don't know if he was flustered during the break, but and by the time he came back there, I thought he did much better against Marco Rubio. And the next clip I want to show is the token clip with Governor of Ohio, John Kasich. And it includes a Donald Trump clip. In this clip, John Kasich actually seems to try to be a little more conservative or more hawkish than Donald Trump. But the reason I chose this clip is because Donald Trump says something in here. If you watch my LiberalViewer Sunday live clip roundups, you'll remember a few weeks back, I can't remember, it might have been Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, but I can't remember for sure. I didn't have time to look it up, but one of the Sunday morning news analysis show hosts asked Donald Trump what would be the Trump doctrine, and he, in some sense, didn't seem to understand the question, but he started off saying, be strong, but by the end of his answer, the Trump doctrine seemed to be we're going to make them pay. They're going to have to pay. And if you listen to his answer here about what he thinks about South Korea and the U.S. defending all these countries all over the world, it's basically the same Trump doctrine is in there. It's we're going to make them pay, as you can see. And then there's a response from Governor of Ohio, John Kasich. This is a little under 2 minutes over here.
Saying, I think that we are now in a position, we owe $19 trillion because of the horrible omnibus budget that was approved 6 weeks ago. It's going to be $21 trillion. We can no longer defend all of these countries, Japan, Germany, South Korea. You order televisions, you order almost anything, you're getting it from these countries, whether it's a Mercedes-Benz or whether it's an air conditioning unit. They're coming out of these countries. They are making a fortune. Saudi Arabia, we are defending Saudi Arabia. Before the oil went down, now they're making less, but they're making plenty. They were making $1 billion a day. We defend all of these countries for peanuts. You talk about budgets. We have to start getting reimbursed for taking care of the military services for all of these countries.
And Wolf, hold on. Dr. Carson, Dr. Carson.
Hey, Wolf, let me just say this because he mentioned this. Look, we're all in agreement that the Japanese need to do more. We're all in agreement that the Europeans need to do more. But I hate to just tell everybody we are the leader of the world and we should put the pressure on them to do their job. No, there is no question about it. But at the same time, we also have to rebuild the military. Look, I have a balanced budget plan that cuts taxes, reforms regulations, but also builds the military, puts $100 billion more in defense. We need to rebuild our defenses, but I must also tell you, as a longtime reformer of the Pentagon, we must reform that building. We can't have a weapon system take 22 and a half years. We have 800,000 bureaucrats working for DOD, performing bureaucratic functions when we ought to be putting these resources into strengthening the military. So we can do it all.
Dr. Carson,
we can do it all.
How would you deal with North Korea?
So, yeah, regarding the answer there from John Kasich, he seemed to be trying to get a little to the right of Donald Trump on military spending after what Donald Trump said about making them pay and, not defending everyone all over the world. But I really don't see any kind of path to victory for John Kasich. I mean, I guess stranger things have happened, but I can't really, it seems wildly unlikely to me, and that's why I have very few clips of John Kasich there. That was the Representative John Kasich clip, and that's kind of the closest he came to taking on Donald Trump, and I think Donald Trump even did not really get hurt at all in that interchange, and the only thing that's weird about it, like I said before I showed the clip, is that it's kind of indicative of this Trump doctrine. There are these important doctrines. There's the Truman doctrine, and there's the Nixon doctrine, and the Bush doctrine, and the Reagan doctrine. And as someone who has a history degree from an Ivy League university, for all the good it does me, that's something I studied a lot, and to see the Trump doctrine, I guess, if Trump makes it into the presidency, that seems like Trump's foreign policy doctrine will be, we're going to make them pay, and that clip was representative of that, and that's why I chose it for my fair use commentary, both media analysis in terms of how people may see that, and I especially want to know what you think about it down in the comment section. I have one more clip left. This is clip 12, the one I promised you at the beginning, the one where the debate pretty much devolves into chaos, a shouting match. I called the CBS debate the Jerry Springer show. This is definitely that. And I've shown you back and forth Donald Trump getting hit by Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. They actually both go after him in this clip, and they're almost like squabbling like little children by the end of this clip, which I will discuss a little more after you watch it over here.
Wolf, you said I got a response.
You'll have a chance. Maria will pick up the
He called
question.
me a liar. You're saying I can't respond to being called a liar?
Go ahead and respond.
What we're seeing with Donald is actually the pattern of Washington, the pattern of Washington deal makers, which is they make promises, they break their words, and then when anyone calls them on it, they call you a liar. And so that's Donald's pattern over and over again. He said, for example, 7 months ago, this is Donald speaking, quote, I, Donald Trump, was a member of the establishment. There's a reason Harry Reid thinks he's the best Republican up here. There's a reason Jimmy Carter said he would support Donald Trump over me, because he said Donald Trump is malleable. He has no fixed set of beliefs, whereas Ted Cruz is not malleable. And every time anyone points at Donald's actual record, what he said on national television, Donald yells liar. Let me tell you something. Falsely accusing someone of lying is itself a lie, and it's something Donald does daily.
Go ahead, Mr. Trump.
I watched the lobbyists. I watched what this man did to Dr. Ben Carson, who I respect, in Iowa, where he said that Ben Carson is out of the race. He has left Iowa, and he's out of the race. And I thought it was disgraceful, and got a lot of votes because of that. A lot of votes took him away from Ben Carson. I watched that. Probably took him away from me, too. But I watched it. I also watched where he did a form that looked like it came right out of a government agency, and it said on top, voter violation. And then it graded you, and it scared the hell out of people. And it said the only way you clear up the violation, essentially, is to go and vote for Ted Cruz. I watched that fraudulent document, and I said it's the worst thing I've ever seen in politics. To me, that was even worse than what he did to Ben.
Senator Cruz.
I know
Donald,
I know politicians, believe it or not, better than you do, and it's not good.
Oh, I believe it. No, I believe you know politicians much better than I do, because for 40 years you've been funding liberal Democratic politicians. And by the way,
I funded you.
The
I
reason
funded him.
You're welcome to have the check back.
I funded this guy.
Because let's
I
be
gave
clear.
him a check.
Yeah, you gave me
$5,000.
You never funded me.
And by the way, let's be clear. Donald claims to care
You know why? I didn't
about
want to, but he sent me his book with his autograph.
Donald, I understand rules
Mr.
are very
Trump,
hard
you're
for you.
doing
They're
a
very
great job.
confusing.
I have his book.
Okay,
Yeah, on your reality
Trump,
TV
you're doing a
show,
great
not
job.
in
Thank you for the book.
Donald.
Thank you for the book. Go ahead.
Donald, you can get back on your meds
There's a lot of
now.
fun up here tonight, I have to tell you. Thank you for the book. I really appreciate it.
Donald, relax.
Go ahead. I'm relaxed. You're the
sent him a
basket
book.
case. Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't get nervous. Go ahead.
My
I
name
promise
is,
you,
my
Donald,
name is
there's
mentioned.
nothing about
I've
you
seen
that makes
I've
anyone
seen
nervous.
You're losing
people
so
are actually
badly.
watching this.
You don't know what's happening.
Gentlemen.
Wolf, I'm going to ask that my
We gotta
time not be
stop
deducted
this.
when
Time
he's
is up,
yelling
Wolf.
at
Gentlemen.
Take control.
Okay, now.
The latest debate,
hold on,
gentlemen,
I'm going to
please.
get my answer. He doesn't get to
I
yell
want
in
to
the whole
move.
time.
I want to move on. These are the rules.
He,
can't
excuse
move on.
me, he
We're
called
moving
me
on.
You
a
know what?
liar
You
and then
should move
interrupted
on.
the whole time.
You've
Am I
had a
allowed to-
chance.
Wolf, do I
Gentlemen.
not get a response?
You have-
you
do
should
I not
move
get a
on.
response
You'll
without
get
being interrupted?
plenty of response, so stand by.
My name was
I want to
mentioned.
talk. I want to talk about ISIS right now, and the federal government.
You can't fight in here. This is the war room. Or, I don't know. That seemed like, to me, that may have actually been the part of the debate that saved Donald Trump from the earlier part of the debate. Because in the earlier part of the debate, it looked like Donald Trump was really getting rattled, befuddled, whatever, when you saw that whole clip in context in his back and forth with Marco Rubio on healthcare and the lines around the states, and whether we're going to keep pre-existing conditions, and whether he was repeating himself and did his own little Marco Rubio. But in that clip, I think they all looked pretty bad, but none of them really looked any worse than any of the others, and that, I think, is to Donald Trump's benefit. I mean, the status quo is to Donald Trump's benefit. If he can keep things going in the direction they're going, he's going to be the Republican nominee. I think Marco Rubio especially, and Ted Cruz to some extent, have come to that realization, and that's why there was that back forth, all those contentious interchanges that I showed you full in context to see how this debate is shaping the 2016 Republican race. It's all going to be decided in the next week to 2 weeks. March 1st, next Tuesday, is Super Tuesday, and there are no more debates before that. And then I think it's March 14th or 15th is Florida, where if Donald Trump can beat Marco Rubio in Florida, and he's currently leading in the Florida polls, then Marco Rubio is basically done because it's a winner-take-all state. Same thing for Ohio, Donald Trump versus John Kasich. And it may actually not be so true in Texas, where Donald Trump benefits if Ted Cruz wins Texas, because then Ted Cruz stays in the race because Texas is on Super Tuesday, and that helps dilute the votes against him in Florida and Ohio. So what happened in this debate on CNN last night was really pivotal, and I wanted to show you those key moments in their full context so I could discuss them with you. You could tell me what you think down in the comment section. I apologize to the live streamers who only saw me and didn't see the clips, and I think pretty much everybody left. I don't blame you for that, but it's just part of this whole copyright struggle. Like I said, my channel could be going down. I could be losing features. I might lose monetization. If you actually want to help out my channel and become one of my patrons so I don't have to worry about ad revenue or monetization at all, there's a link down in the video description. I currently have about 70 patrons who are pledging over $400 a month, so that definitely helps out when I have to face these kind of struggles with copyright and not being able to monetize my work after I put a lot of work into showing you the best clips from the CNN Republican debate in Houston last night and giving you my political commentary and media analysis, and also looking and seeing what you think during the broadcast, although unfortunately I didn't have many live viewers to interact with or to take any of your comments. I saw one person asking what the status of my copyright was, and I guess I answered that question, but for the people who are watching this as a recorded show, I'll have those time indexes down there, and there's also like a little eye up in this corner of the video if you hover your mouse there, where you can give me a direct donation through fan funding if you want to help support my channel that way. I appreciate all of you who support just by watching, commenting, giving me a thumbs up, and I'm hoping to be back on Sunday with another live stream. I don't think there is particular about the Sunday morning news analysis shows. For some reason, it's these debate clips that they're being really proprietary about, and it makes no sense because the debate clips are actually more newsworthy. They should be have less copyright restrictions and give more latitude to fair use than the Sunday morning news analysis shows, which are usually much more produced products of the corporate media, although in that case I tend to do a lot more media analysis and analyze what the hosts are doing. In this debate, I pretty much left the moderators out and focused on the political commentary and the effect on the Republican race, because this is the pivotal 2 weeks, as I was saying, and I guess I'll keep saying it and see you back on Sunday. The YouTube powers that be willing, I'll be back on Sunday sometime around 5 p.m. Pacific time, give or take an hour, which is Greenwich Mean Time minus 8 hours still. I think it's another couple weeks till daylight savings ends, and until I'm allowed back broadcasting on YouTube, I guess I will be seeing all of you around the internet.